KFMU DJ Eli Campbell here. One thing that makes Steamboat special is how many awe-inspiring people call our valley home. You could find yourself in line at the coffee shop next to an Olympian, or sitting on the gondola next to the founder of a world-renowned business. Our community produces and attracts the best of the best in their respective fields, but most are so humble about it you would never know. These extraordinary people are the common folk in the boat. Eli Campbell here with you on 104.1, 105.5 KFMU in Steamboat Springs, Colorado, streaming online worldwide at kfmuradio.com. Now, we're broadcasting today from the Commons Food Hall, and I'm really excited to be here for what we hope will become a regular series of interviews here on KFMU. The working title right now is Common Folk in the Boat, and obviously that's a play off of being here at the Commons Food Hall, but also going a little deeper than that, the idea that the common person that you meet in Steamboat is really anything but common. A lot of the people here are truly extraordinary in what they do, and sometimes you would never know it, which brings me to Scotty Stoughton, the man next to me, a person who I've been fortunate to call a friend over the past few years, a person who puts on incredible music festivals here in town, owns his own rafting company, lead singer and lyricist for the band Bonfire Dub, pretty darn good stand-up paddleboarder yourself, just an amazing all-around man. How are you doing today?
I'm great. It's nice to be here in a great space.
Yeah, and we're really excited about this space and happy to have you joining me today. Like I said, I've had the pleasure to get to know you over the past couple of years, and you're just someone to me who embodies the whole idea, the spirit of living life to the fullest. You're well-traveled. In the past year alone, you've summited Kilimanjaro, you've been through Turkey, you built a house in Baja Peninsula of Mexico, all while producing WinterWonderGrass and Renewal and RiverWonderGrass, which combines your passions for the river and music. And you do it all with this positive attitude, and not just a positive attitude to yourself, but an attitude that elevates the experience and the attitude of those around you. So being the first guest here on this little interview series, I figured we'd start with an easy first question. What is your secret to living a good life?
Oh, man. Starting with an easy one. I've definitely cultivated a bit of a meditation practice over the years to try to help me understand truly what does motivate me and what is that secret, and to get away from the material side of things. And to really understand what drives us as humans and what drives me to get out of bed. And certainly it was a great intro, and it sounds like, life's great, but I have my fair share of challenges every day, every week, every month. And some of them are pretty tough and pretty deep, but by maintaining a somewhat regular meditation practice and realizing that I have to be in nature to fully feel connected and feel good, a combination of those two things really helps me set the tone for being productive, staying positive, and staying focused. I've learned a lot about dealing with egos, especially in the music business and my own along this journey, and to be able to disassociate with that and to find the truth in all things and the beauty in all challenges has helped me to succeed so far in this kind of wild industry.
It's one of the things I really enjoy about you is you've done all of these amazing things, and yet you're so humble. And I think it really does kind of embody what I'm trying to show with this whole interview series, the common folk in Steamboat, is that if someone were to meet you at the coffee shop or here at the Commons, riding up the gondola, they might never know who they're sitting next to and what the things that you've accomplished, because you're not the type of person that's going to really boast about it. But you've done a lot for yourself and for your family and for the communities that you've impacted. What is it that keeps you so grounded?
Well, certainly my wife. She's an amazing part of my recent journey. We've only been married for close to 5 years, but finding that human and finding somebody that can really balance me and center me and support me in the things that I'm doing, but also keep me grounded in what's really important in life, family and community and health. And without those things, you really have nothing. Material success, it doesn't mean much to me or the family. I definitely want a roof over our heads and to do the great things that we love to do. Travel is a big one. But staying grounded comes from having a great family, a great community. The team that I work with, the operations team, the marketing team, the box office team, like my entire group of people in WinterWonderGrass and Bonfire are all also equally humble and motivated and dedicated and family folk. And I think collectively we just do a really good job to make sure we keep the ego in check. None of us run around talking about the fact that we're producing a Billy Strings festival or we're going on the road with X artist or we do WinterWonderGrass. It's more like we approach it as a huge honor, to have the ability to create space and hold space for people to create their own dreams. I mean, that's a huge opportunity. And that's really what I personally love mostly about the whole thing.
We've talked a lot. I used to put on events too, and I think you kind of come to your events with the same attitude I did, is that it's more about the experience that the person is going to have than the event itself. Making sure that you're making the most meaningful and memorable experience for that event. How do you feel like you've done that with Renewal and WinterWonderGrass and the different events that you've put on now, BajaWonderGrass and beyond?
It starts with, you kind of alluded to it, to never forget the reason that we do this. And for us, it's that fan that's traveled across the country, that's worked hard, saving money, that's like committed to go to an event, say in Steamboat, to fly into WinterWonderGrass and find a hotel and meet up with their friends and get into the venue. And that person, their wide eyes and their stoke and their exuberance and excitement, like that's the reason we do it. That's why we put these things on, to see those fans get into the front row and see their band of their dreams perform in a snowstorm or, on the beach. Like those moments are priceless and precious. And, that's the big motivating factor for us. And we never forget that. And the artists we work with at WinterWonderGrass and the partnership we have with Billy Strings, it's because those artists share that same ethos and desire. It's about the fan experience. It's about creating something that's memorable and that's intangible, that leaves you feeling better when you're gone than when you arrive. And I think that's what makes our events a little bit different than most festivals and big concerts and productions. Yes, it's a party for sure, but the most important thing is the purpose and what you get out of it, the connections you make, the way you feel in your body physically and spiritually and emotionally. Are you more connected or more disconnected? And so we aim to make you more connected when you're at our events and when you leave our events, and that's the drive.
And you mentioned it. It's always a snowstorm at WinterWonderGrass.
True.
We're going to get to WinterWonderGrass, the 2024 version, in just a little bit. Again, I want to ask you, I touched on it. You are someone who's well-traveled. You've had so many journeys in your life, and I feel like you're always seeking out the next challenge for yourself. You've paddleboarded through the Grand Canyon. You've summited Kilimanjaro. Is there any of those journeys that specifically kind of really touched you, and when you came away from it, really led you on the path of how you wanted to pursue your life moving forward?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, those were recent journeys. But my whole life, I was lucky enough to kind of grow up on the East Coast in New Jersey, and it was a surfing community. So surfing and traveling were something I was really drawn to early on, and experiencing different cultures. And then quickly realizing that although the beach was beautiful and the waves might be great or the skiing's good, where's the true beauty and the true magic? Where does it lie? And it lies in the community and in the culture and in the people, and getting to know those kinds of folks. I've spent a lot of time traveling around the world, and it's mostly because I'm drawn to being uncomfortable. Like, absolutely love being the most awkward person in the room. And it's hard as heck. I'm not great at that. But, I was in Bosnia once and walked into a bar that was full of, I think it was full of like Al-Qaeda fighters. And this ex-CIA operative grabs me and puts me at the table. He's like, what the heck? What are you doing here? Like, why? Like, get over here. And I just stumbled in, and I wanted to understand what real life was about. We live in a bubble. We're lucky, no criticism or judgment of that, but we do live in a bubble. And so I try to encourage everyone, my family, my friends, like, get out there, be uncomfortable, because that's when the true creative space occurs. And if you're an artist and you're writing, when you're in an uncomfortable situation, that portal, that connection to the universe or to God or to whatever maker you are connected to, it opens up. If you can eliminate the noise and the chatter and the day-to-day drama and the ego, all of a sudden you're really connected to source and the creative juices flow. And so that's why I continue to travel, because it really helps me remain grounded, and then also willing and able and excited to keep exploring.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it. We live in a bubble. It's something as a parent myself, and I know you're a parent as well. I am so excited to have the opportunity to raise my kids in this valley in Steamboat Springs. It's an amazing opportunity for them to enjoy recreation and outdoors, but they also lose a lot of what real life can be for some people, and it's something I am always trying to expose my kids to, but it's hard. It's hard sometimes for a 10-year-old telling them how life is for some versus experiencing it completely goes over their head.
Yep.
So we are fortunate to live here, but certainly need to understand what the world is for most people. Now, I mentioned you had taken this 21-day journey through the Grand Canyon on a stand-up paddleboard, and I read a blog that you wrote about that in which you said you kind of asked rhetorically about how do you find a positive and enthusiastic attitude in the face of discomfort, and how do you lift the spirit of others when the elements in the moment are kind of all against you? And so having gone through that, I read the blog, it was wonderful, but you never answered the question. So I'm wondering if you have an answer to those rhetorical questions you asked so many years ago.
Oh, well, it seems to be a question I ask myself a lot, like how to remain focused and positive and calm in the chaos. I don't really know the answer to that, except that being aware of the chaos and being comfortable with being uncomfortable and being okay, being full of anxiety, knowing that these are normal things to deal with and we'll all deal with them, and there is a tomorrow and there is a next week, a next year, and to not get too caught up in your current demise and to look at all of these challenges as opportunities, because without friction or conflict or difficulties, I don't think we'll ever truly understand like the full depth of living. You often hear of people that were raised in privilege, and that's wonderful, and oftentimes the products of those families have a difficult time finding their way and succeeding on their own because they've never had conflict. They've never had adversity. They've never been, rolled through a class 8 rapid, wondering, when your next breath is going to come. But if you find yourself in those moments and you breathe deep and you welcome the challenge and you accept whatever outcome is to be because you have no control of that, then you're going to succeed. It's like, it's a great quote that I love. Relax. Nothing's in control.
I like that. And I just the whole attitude. I think a lot of people lose sight of the way that you can get more out of life if you accept the consequence that could be, but also what you might get out of it on the other end. And, I mentioned as well, you're a lyricist, you're a songwriter, you're the lead singer for Bonfire Dub. And one of the things I love about the Bonfire Dub music is you kind of encapsulate all of that into your song, into songwriting. What is it that inspired you first to start songwriting, and why do you think it's such a good vehicle to spread the positive message that you have?
I first started songwriting, I just, like most things in my life, like I want to attain something and I will it to happen. I mean, I'm not a trained singer, a songwriter, a guitar player. I always kid I'm the worst person in the band. I'm not, I didn't come from that. Like I taught myself how to paddleboard. I taught myself how to play guitar, and it doesn't matter, the skills that you have going into something. If you have the will and the drive and the desire to achieve it, you can. So with writing lyrics, it was something I liked to do as a kid. I was way into poetry. Some of my great first books were like On the Road by Kerouac and Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse, two explorative journeys in different continents that were all about, inner exploration and writing things down. And writing things down is really therapeutic. It's really helpful. I love writing poems. When I traveled around the world, I was mostly traveling solo, so I'd have my journal and a pen and a backpack. And wherever I was, I would just start writing about things. And then I got good at just being in the moment, writing about the surroundings and the moment I was in completely. And that was really fun to capture where I was and the feeling I had. And then as I got further down in life and wanted to, write more music with the new band, I just took some of those poems and just transcribed them into some really simple forms and then brought it to the band. And they made it sound great.
Yeah, and it does sound great. You released the new song last week, Never Settle, and I'm excited to hear more new music. We were talking last week about how there's still more to come, and so I always love hearing more from you. Now, I think you've done something that a lot of people only dream of, which is you've been able to turn your passions into a career. Not only are you the lead singer and the leader of a band, but you've turned your passion for music into music festivals. You've turned your passion for water into owning river companies that run trips down the Green and the Yampa and the Colorado. And you've combined even the two of those into RiverWonderGrass, which is a really incredible concept. My wife has had the pleasure of being on a couple of those trips and comes back a transformed woman. And so just curious, where did the idea to combine the river and your bluegrass festivals into one entity, how was that conceived, and why do you think the river and bluegrass worlds kind of marry together so seamlessly?
Yeah, I mean, bluegrass and the outdoors definitely are just meant to be, from the roots of that music of the mountains, Appalachia. It's all about the stories. It's all about family. It's all about community. It's about struggle. And you're deep in the mountains, So it seemed like an obvious migration west, when that scene really blew up, and to start putting on events in the mountains where the folk felt comfortable and along the rivers. Years ago, I was involved with a property called State Bridge. I used to play there. I used to book it. Then I ran it. That's how I learned how to run venues and book bands. And then I was a partner there. And then obviously that burned down. But the lessons I learned there were many. And one of which was in the early days, you'd go out there on a Sunday and there'd be river runners, running the river. And you'd be running into fly fishermen. And then there'd be bikers that came by, and then all these kind of lost hippies that would come by. And you just have a great mixture of people. And a lot of it was around bluegrass music. So it seemed to penetrate a lot of different people's minds and hearts. And so that was a great common denominator. And with regards to the river, when I did the Grand Canyon, I didn't come up as a river person, more as a surfer. And I got into paddleboarding late, and I was like, oh, this is my thing. And I saw it in Kauai 12, 13 years ago and brought it to Colorado. And a few of us were amongst the first to really explore a lot of these rivers. And then I had the opportunity to do the Grand. And that's the first time I did a multi-day overnight trip. And as someone who suffers from a few chronic injuries, and pretty good ones, I'm always in a little bit of pain. And surprisingly, on a paddleboard for 21 days through the Grand Canyon, I felt great. I felt really loose. I felt limber. I felt really clear in my mind, my thoughts, my heart. I was really open. And I realized that this would be an incredible experience to bring people. And so opportunity came up with my partner Javier to purchase Adrift out there in Jensen and create those experiences. And when the pandemic hit, I finally had an opportunity to slow down, one, and two, a lot of the bands weren't touring. So I called up some really good friends and contacts and gave it a try. And we realized that magic, was there, to go into these trips and have an intention. This isn't a party. This is a trip to really become revived on. Let's have some purpose. Let's be more about the morning coffee conversation, music, hiking, silence than we are about, the obvious thing, which is, okay, it's 8:00 at night. Let's drink a bunch and rally around the fire and enjoy the music. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I find that when you give people a little bit more direction, that these kind of journeys are not about that. You can certainly partake, but the intention and the focus is more on really connecting with nature and each other and musicians that you don't know but could have been in love with and following for 20 years. Now you have an opportunity to get one-on-one, and I think that's what's missing in our society generally. Locally, I mentioned living in a bubble, and you talked about it, and that's not really Steamboat, and I think that's really the West. We're not really exposed to a lot of strife and hardship. The death and destruction and challenges that occur to people daily around the world, they're real, they're legit. Yeah. And we've been blessed to be in a really productive country with opportunity where we can live without a lot of that discomfort. So it's wonderful to take those distractions away, the TV ads, the sport, the game, the iPhone, the iPad, and you go out there on the river and you start understanding what it means to be human. You're integrating the way that humans have integrated the entire time we've been walking upright, except for the last like 200. We're not wired to operate like we're operating. And so music, river, mountains, you know, just nature and sound and community, those are things that we've been drawn to since we were, you know, first evolved. And so that's what I love reconnecting to.
Yeah, and like I said, my wife has been on a couple of those trips, and the stories she comes back with and the way it has transformed her outlook is absolutely incredible. And I think it's, you know, you took the WinterWonderGrass idea and put it into the river, but WinterWonderGrass has a lot of that same feeling of it's not just a music festival, it's about the community, it's about the impact. And this is something that started back in 2013. We're now over a decade into it. When you started WinterWonderGrass, did you ever think that you would be building something that had over a decade's worth of staying power?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I guess it's like a classic entrepreneur. Like we do things that feel really good in the moment and that we're really passionate about, but planning usually comes second, right? You know, I didn't create a full-on budget till like a couple of years in, and I was like, oh crap! Like I gotta really tune this up, you know, because for me, you know, culture trumps strategy.
Yeah.
So I knew we were onto something great. I knew it was going to be great. The response was just ridiculous down there in Edwards, and it felt so good. But I never do anything in my life where the end game is the goal. Hey, let's plan this. Let's achieve that. Let's finish that. Let's sell that. Let's move on. I kind of just live a little bit more passionately and in the moment for better or worse. And so I'm not surprised we're here 11 years later, but I'm incredibly grateful that we are.
Yeah. And now, speaking of 11 years later and plans for 2024, part of the reason that you're here is to reveal the lineup for the March 1st through 3rd festival in Steamboat. So who are we going to see?
Well, this is an exciting lineup. Every year we try to book bands that we haven't had in the past. And with the bluegrass or the jamgrass and the Americana, there's not a lot that fit that and that want to play in the middle of a snowstorm in the winter. So luckily, we found a new crop of bands this year. We have 12 artists that have never played a WinterWonderGrass. And we got 2 brand new headliners that have never played a WinterWonderGrass. And we have our first female headliner top line at a WinterWonderGrass. So I'll start with her, and we're excited to have Sierra Farrell on board. Just amazing artist, and she's doing incredible things. A good friend of mine is her mandolin player, Josh Rilko. And so years ago, he's like, you really got to check her out. So we've been following her, and we finally are able to get her on a festival. So really excited to welcome Sierra in. And bringing back the infamous String Dusters. They're just a staple for us. They absolutely crush it. Their musicianship, them as humans, they're just top notch. So bringing them back is amazing. The outlier that we had last year, which most of my friends that I know as I walk around the crowd were wondering who the heck this guy was. And, well, we trust you, but whatever. I think we'll go get a beer during this time. Well, after this person's set, people were jaw dropped.
Most talked about.
They were going crazy. Yeah. So that's Paul Cawthon. So we're bringing Paul Cawthon back, which is going to be amazing. He's going to headline this year, and he just puts on such an incredible show. And then, who else are we bringing out this year? Really good friends of mine that spend a lot of time on the river, and that's the Kitchen Dwellers. Yep. Molly Tuttle's Golden Highway. You know, she is just incredible. She's crushing it. First time ever, Andy Frasco in the UN, and one of our favorites, Lindsay Lou. Yep. And now I remember who I was trying to think of, the other new headliner that's never played a WinterWonderGrass, and they are from Canada, and it's the Dead South.
Yeah, it's a really incredible lineup. And, I love that you're bringing in some musicians that haven't played WinterWonderGrass before. Every year it seems like you have a band that is just a little outside the bluegrass fold. You kind of mentioned Paul Cawthon last year, which was someone I went to the festival thinking, like, who is this guy? And then came away just, like, blown away, just the energy he had on stage. And to be honest, his visual appearance of when he walks out on stage is not what you expect when the performance starts. It is unbelievable. And he's back. You had a couple years ago was the Warren Treaty. I was really excited to see ALO there a few years ago. Is there anyone that's going to be on that main stage this year that you feel like is kind of that person or that band that people will come away with just like something unexpected just happened, something really cool just happened, and I'm really glad I was there to experience it?
Well, certainly certainly Paul, you mentioned, if you didn't see him, you want to catch that. I think Sierra Farrell's going to blow people away. And the Dead South. Like, the Dead South is so fun and so interesting. They're going to be great. But probably the biggest outlier could be Andy Frasco.
Yeah.
I've actually never seen Andy Frasco live. He's good friends with a lot of friends of mine. He's been wanting to get on the festival for a while. He's really crushing it around the country and just doing big numbers and just a character. So I obviously know his music and have seen it, but never live. So I'm pretty pumped for the Andy Frasco. That's going to be pretty rocking.
Yeah, and I know he's played in Steamboat before, but never quite on that sort of stage, so it'll be a lot of fun. And then, the other thing that I love about WinterWonderGrass is the side stages. Typically, there is the outlier here and there, but typically the headliners, I know they're known commodities. I have an idea of what I'm going to get, but the side stages are usually musicians or bands that I've never heard of before. And last year, it was Mama Magnolia that I saw on the side stage, and I've told you, it was the best performance I saw the entire festival. And you're right up there. It's a real close, intimate way to watch. Is there anyone that's going to be on that side stage that people should really be on the lookout for and make sure that they hit up the Jamboree tent or one of the other tents for?
There's a lot. Like I mentioned, we've got, several brand new bands. One great thing about Billy Strings and what he's done over the last 10 years is that he's really raised the bar for young pickers and players. So this next wave of bands that are coming up, they're looking to him for inspiration. And if that's your bar, your metric, I mean, you better be really, really good. And some of these new bands are really, really good. So there's 3 grass bands, which is funny. The first one, East Nash Grass, which is obviously out of Nashville. Yep. Some of the best Nashville pickers, they're coming out. They're actually going to be at Renewal next week, and then they're going to be at WinterWonderGrass. Unbelievable. They were recommended by Billy directly. Another band Billy recommended that will also be at Renewal and WinterWonderGrass, Shadowgrass, which is going to rage. I've been listening to a lot of their music. It's so good. And then Mountain Grass Unit from the East Coast. Young kids. I don't even think they're 21, so don't let them drink. They are unbelievable. They actually cover Billy Strings. So the talent level is really, really high. And then another gal that I'm really excited about, Madeline Hawthorne, she's actually going to kick off the free show on Thursday at the base of the gondola and then play Friday. Those 4 acts are going to be pretty sensational. And all the others, I mean, Kind-Hearted Strangers and Armchair Boogie and on down the line. There's not a band that doesn't excel at their craft playing anytime on any stage over the weekend, which
I think
is awesome.
And you always have the Winter Wonder Women that always come together, which I think is something very special. And I'm always impressed with those women because it's not like they're playing together year round. They are just coming together and they kind of seamlessly mix together and put on some great music. Some of the best women in the Bluegrass and Winter Wondergrass family. Can you talk a little bit about the Winter Wonder Women?
Yeah, it's a great project. Bridget Law and I kind of thought about it years ago. Bridget plays with the Elephant Revival and been part of the family for, 15 years. And I thought it was a great idea to highlight the women in the scene, because it's male-dominated. And so we're like, let's really shine a light on these incredibly talented ladies. And that's been a fan favorite every year. Like, you can't get near the tent. Then we kind of joined with Megan Letts, who actually leads Mama Magnolia. And those two put it together, and then they bring in different ladies from around the festival. Lindsay Lou's pretty much a full-time member of that as well. Yeah. And they are just incredible. Well, the greatest thing is when you go into that tent and you see all the young girls in the front row, all the little kids, just watching these girls with their, eyes wide open and so impressed and excited. And you can just watch them take that in and think like, that can be me. I can do that. And that means a ton. And because of popular demand and everybody asking me why the heck they're not on the main stage, they are going to play on the main stage this year.
So cool. That is so cool. Well, tickets are on sale for the March 1st through 3rd Winter Wondergrass now at winterwondergrass.com. And, of course, you also produce Winter Wondergrass Tahoe.
Yes.
We talked about BajaWonderGrass. It's going to be going into its 2nd year. You're going to be doing a whole nother summer of RiverWonderGrass. You're heading off to Renewal in a week and a half to help Billy Strings rock the Buena Vista area. Yeah. I don't know how you do it, but I think I can speak for the entire Steamboat Springs community and just music lovers everywhere. I'm really glad that you do.
Oh, thank you. I'm really grateful to be here and just feel so supported in this community, so it's an honor.
Yeah, well, there you have it. Scotty Stoughton, producer of music festivals, owner of a river company, great stand-up paddleboarder, lyricist, band leader for Bonfire Dub, and just an all-around amazing dude, one of the common folk you find in the Bay. Thank you very much.